What's up, everybody? I'm Dr. Steven Schlintz, and I want to welcome you to Dental Practice Freedom Radio.
So here's the real question. How do dentists like you, who aren't willing to let insurance dictate how you will run your practice, who want to create incredibly profitable practices without sacrificing your time or sanity, how do you create the strategies to ensure your practice not only survives, but thrives in the 21st century? That's the blaring question, and Dr. Steve Schlintz is here to provide the answers. Welcome to Dental Practice Freedom Radio.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Dr. Steve Schlintz. I want to thank you so much for coming to this first inaugural podcast episode. I'm nervous, pumped, excited, all the above, all at the same time. It's going to be a wild ride, and I look forward to seeing where this goes. So on this first episode, I want to kind of lay out what I hope to accomplish in this podcast so I can help you go where you want to go. It's probably going to be shorter episodes. I don't personally have time to listen to an hour podcast, so I want to make sure that I'm speaking to me, my voice, and say, you know what? If I don't like an hour episode, probably going to do 15 minutes. That's probably where the podcast length is going to be. So for you, it's designed so that you hop in your car, you can listen to the podcast, you can go to work, come back, listen to another episode, maybe, I don't know. But that's going to be kind of the layout. Now, there will be a lot of me. There will also be a lot of interviews. So mostly me, some interviews. I want to be very selective of who I bring on this podcast so I can get you the best information so you can create a thriving practice in the 21st century. Now, in order for you to understand where I want to take you and where we want to go with this podcast, you have to understand my background of where I've been. I graduated from Chapel Hill in 2012 and immediately got a job working as an associate in a PPO Medicaid-based practice. And literally after 1 year, I thought I was going to quit. I had just had it. I didn't want to do it anymore. And I made a commitment at that point. I'm going to talk more about this in a future episode, but I made a commitment at that point that I was going to buy a practice, but I was going to create a fee-for-service practice, and not just one that was surviving, but also thriving. And fast forward 5 years, have an associate now, doing a lot of teaching, a lot of lecturing, a lot of coaching. And I wanted to share my experiences so I can learn from you all as well, right? So I actually set up a Facebook page that is Dental Practice Freedom Radio. And that'll be launching very, very shortly, like literally after I get done recording this episode. So by the time you listen to this, it might actually be in existence. So stay tuned for that. I want it to be an exchange and a place where people can go. They can listen to the podcast episodes and they can exchange information, ask questions there so I can answer them on the podcast. That's what I want to create. I want to create a community of people that are really working towards insurance independence. And I know the dental landscape is changing so drastically right now. There's a lot of dentists, they're worried, they're wondering, how am I going to do this? And you know what? I want to give you hope. It can be done. In fact, you can create a fee-for-service practice. And in fact, it can thrive. And in fact, what's going to happen is down the road, there's going to be those practices that are really, really crushing it with fee-for-service. And then there's going to be all the other practices that take insurance and do a lot of bread and butter. I'm like everybody else as a dentist. And I'm going to tell you, I want to choose the first one. I make no qualms about it. I know I'm going to alienate some people on this podcast. And I know that, inevitably, people are going to say, you just can't do that. It's not feasible today. You can't run a practice that way. I know it can run that way because I've done it. And I've also seen countless other dentists do it. And those are the people that I want to bring on the interviews to show you the way. So this podcast is really designed for two people. It's designed for the person right now that might be in a PPO practice. Maybe they're working as an associate, or maybe they own a PPO practice, but they've kind of had it. They're done. They're ready to move on to something new. They're ready to go and do something that feels more like them, more authentic to them. And then the second group is going to be the ones that already may have a fee-for-service practice, and maybe they're already crushing it, or maybe they're barely surviving right now. And I'm going to try to help you with the things that I have learned over the years, what creates sustainable fee-for-service practices that do really, 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 really well. So many different topics that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the difference between private care and fee-for-service, the role of mentorships, the importance of visions, everything that you can possibly imagine. I want to kind of break it down in this podcast and try to keep them short and concise so that I know you're going to be able to listen to this in your car. You're going to be able to listen to this wherever you go. And it's going to be your little companion guide. I feel so passionately and strongly about this because I'm seeing what's happened in the dental profession today. When we allow third-party interference into our businesses, think about how screwed up that actually is, right? Your name is on the door. Your business, If you're letting third-party involvement interfere with your business, ultimately you will no longer have a business. You have a job. You're working for an insurance company. You're working for X, Y, and Z, right? That's not going to work. That's why so many dentists are stressed out right now. It's not going to work. And so you might be thinking right now, but how do I change that? And the reality is you probably can't change it. You're not going to change it by fighting insurance companies. That's a no-win game. What you have to start to do is challenge by creating a new reality. You have to build a new structure. And I am telling you, one of the things that I do in my practice, I do biorejuvenation dentistry. So basically it's, we use composite to build up stabilized joint cases. So TMJ, TMD, you name it. We have a very predictable way to do that. And I'm going to tell you, it's changed my practice. But if I didn't have the systems that I'm going to talk about in this podcast, it never would have happened. And so this podcast is going to be the voice. It's going to be me opening up, talk about the stuff that doesn't work in my own practice. I'm going to talk about the stuff that does work. I'm going to try to ask you the right questions to get you thinking about your own practice. And then hopefully you can pick up some tips and tricks that even if you never engage with me other than this podcast, you'll be able to get some information to help turn your practice around or continue to thrive wherever you're at. So I am super, super pumped about this entire podcast thing. I joked that a couple of years ago, I probably wouldn't do a podcast. And you know what? I changed my mind. Maybe it's because my wife thinks I like to hear myself talk. And maybe that's true, just a little bit. But hopefully I'm going to be able to provide you some value and show you that there's a way. I'm 32 years old. So I get this all the time. And you look so young. How do you teach this stuff? How do you coach this stuff? And I'm not going to sit and talk about the fact that, hey, I know everything. I don't, right? I don't know everything. But I do know some things that have worked in my practice. And that's what I want to be able to share with you. Because if you have a vision like mine, you know that you can practice less. You don't have to be in your practice 5 days a week, busting it out, right? You can be in your practice 3 days a week and be just as successful, if not more successful, if you run your practice the right way. And that's the model that I want to paint for you. Because it's not just me. I see dentists all over the country that are doing this. I work with dentists all over the country that are doing this. So, we're kind of the hidden minority. We're kind of that minority that you go, I don't really know. That fee-for-service thing, that seems really, really difficult. It's not easy. But if you told me that I had a choice in terms of how I want to practice, if I was going to take PPOs and go that route or be free for service and struggle and create and find my own way and create my blue ocean strategy, as they call it in today's day and age, I'm going to take that route every single time because the entrepreneur in me knows that is a better model. I want to be able to create my own path. And so if you're like that, I think you're going to get a lot of value out of this podcast. So I'm just so pumped to have you share this podcast with your friends and family. Your family. If you got another dentist in the family, that'd be great. But share this podcast with your friends and say, hey, I think this might be a good one because I'd love to get reviews and subscriptions and some feedback and head off to that Dental Practice Freedom Radio Facebook group. I'll tell you when it's actually officially launched. Don't go there yet. But that will help give you some places to go to interact with me so I can create the best freaking podcast on planet Earth when it comes to dentistry right now. So that's my intention. And I'm so excited to have you here. And I'll see you at the next episode.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode on Dental Practice Freedom Radio with Dr. Steve Schlintz. We'll see you on the next episode.